Welcome to episode 2 of PHS Tech Time. My name is Mrs. Stafford. I'm one of the 2 librarians at Paschal High School. Mrs. Graham is your other librarian. You've probably met both of us, but if you haven't, you can always come and see us in the library. Today we're going to talk about digital citizenship. So today we're not really going to do tech tips and tricks. You won't really need your laptop out. We're just going to talk about what it is to be a digital citizen and why that's so important. So the first thing you really need to know is what digital citizenship is. And it is the norms of appropriate, responsible behavior regarding the use of technology. So basically knowing what you should do when you have technology in front of you and what you shouldn't do, and also being able to use good judgment and not do those things that you know you shouldn't do. And so your ultimate goal is always going to be an outstanding digital citizen. One of the first ways that you can become an upstanding digital citizen is to understand internet safety. Now, I put the picture of stranger danger up here because it's something that you heard your entire life. As a kid, you always heard that you shouldn't talk to strangers. You understood it, you followed it. But for some reason, as you get older and technology enters your life more and more, the idea of not talking to strangers becomes a little bit less clear in your mind. And so I just want to remind you that you have to be safe on the internet, and if you're not, there are certain types of harm that can come to you. I've put 4 types of those harms up on the screen. The first one being physical, which you probably wouldn't immediately think of, but what you have to remember is whatever you put out on the internet and anybody you interact with on the internet, there is a person on the other end of that that could result in some kind of physical altercation or some kind of physical harm. And so you have to keep that in the back of your mind at all times. The second is psychological. That goes a lot into cyberbullying, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, and you'll hear more about as we continue these Tech Time episodes. The third is reputation and legal, and that has everything to do with what we call a digital footprint. Whatever you put onto the internet stays there. It can always come back and hurt you legally, and it can also harm your reputation. And then, of course, the fourth is identity, property, and community harm. Generally, you'll hear that with the word theft behind it, identity theft, property theft, because if you put too much information out on the internet, or if you're not careful about where your private information goes, somebody can always take that from you. So the idea of privacy is very, very important. And of course, you want to keep lots of information private. The internet is not just a catch-all for everything that you've ever wanted to say or show someone. And so I wanted you guys to look at 3 privacy policies. Now, these are for websites that you won't use on your school laptop. They're not sites that you'll access. They're not educational, but they're sites that you guys see all the time. And it'll give you an idea of what happens to that information when you put it out into the internet world. The first one that I pulled is Facebook, probably the most popular website. And one of the big things that Facebook as well as Instagram want you to know is that when you put that information onto their website, they don't claim to own it, but it is theirs to use if they want. And so remember that whatever you put out onto the internet becomes the property of whatever site that you're using. And so if it's not something that you want a lot of people to see, it's not something that you should put out on the internet. Same thing goes with Snapchat. And again, this isn't something that you would ever use in a school capacity, but it gives you an idea of what happens to your information. Snapchat's privacy policy basically says if you don't want everyone to see it, don't put it out into the world. And so I just want to remind you guys that all those things you put out create that digital footprint. And so if you don't want it to come back later and haunt you, or you don't want to see it, don't put it out there. And so the easiest way to avoid those situations is to practice appropriate online behavior. And there are a few really simple steps to success. Don't post things that are going to get you or someone else in trouble. Don't go to websites you know you shouldn't go to. And then the easiest one is just to be a good person. You guys strive to be good people when you come to school every day. You strive to be good people when you're face to face. And so even when hiding behind a computer screen, you need to remember to be a good person. One big reminder that I want to give to you guys is that this laptop that you're getting belongs to the district, and it's being constantly monitored. So it's not just about remembering to follow your own set rules. You cannot do anything that is not school appropriate on this laptop. For example, you don't need to change your background or anything on your laptop to something that is not school appropriate. And so again, it's all about appropriate online behavior and appropriate school behavior. When you have laptops that you use in school, those work hand in hand. The last thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is cyberbullying, and I'm just going to give you a couple quick reminders about this, and then we'll go into this more in the other tech times. Remember that cyberbullying on the surface seems very, very easy. You're invisible, it can go viral very quickly, but on the inside, it's harassment. It can come as impersonating someone, it can come as excluding someone, and it can also have legal repercussions. And so you need to remember that that is definitely not something that you want to participate in. If you find yourself in a situation where you're being cyberbullied, please remember that you don't want to respond, you don't want to retaliate. Save any evidence that you have, tell someone, and block that person. And then remember, of course, you don't ever want to be a cyberbully, but you also don't want to be a bystander. And it's okay for you to say to a friend or somebody next to you that is cyberbullying someone that they should stop. You don't have to read them the definition of digital citizenship, you just need to tell them that they should stop and that it's not okay. So that was just a very, very quick introduction to digital citizenship. Things that you want to think about every single time you sign on to the internet, whether that's with your school laptop, your cell phone, or your computer at home. On the next episode tomorrow, we're going to talk about the platform It's Learning that you're using in class and give you some tips and tricks on that. The rest of this week will be more tech-based episodes, and then next week we'll come back and talk more about digital citizenship. Have a great Tuesday.